North Carolina Radio Reading Service. We are a United Way partner agency. We are located here on the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is being carried by the UNC Chapel Hill system. Today's date is Friday, March the 23rd, 2018, and your radio readers this morning are Stuart and Beth Walters. We are glad to be with you today. And as normal, we will be reading today's edition of the Fayettville Observer. Hope everyone's doing okay out there this morning. Let's start with today's weather. It's a little bit of a breeze out there, but it's a sunny day. High is expected to be near 60 degrees. Low over tonight of 35. High tomorrow about the same, maybe just a little bit cooler. A little bit of chance of some rain tomorrow night into Sunday morning. High Sunday in the low 50s. And then beginning Monday, kind of on a warming trend. Monday's going to be near 60, and then the rest of the week kind of a warming trend from there with no rain expected after the rain Saturday night into Sunday morning. So that's kind of the weather picture, kind of typical spring weather for around here as we're in the midst of the change of seasons. Okay, let's look at the three need-to-know items today. Number one, the Marathon road closures. Several roads will be closed to traffic during the All-American Marathon on Sunday. They include both directions of Ray Avenue between Rowan Street and Hay Street, one block of Person Street at the Market House, both directions of Green Street, both directions of Rowan Street between Green Street and Bragg Boulevard, both directions of Hay Street starting at the Market House and continuing until it turns onto Morganton Road. Both directions of Morganton Road from Dobbin Park to the All-American Freeway. The southbound lanes of the All-American Freeway between Morganton Road and Fort Bragg roads closest to the starting area near Festival Park will close at 5 a.m. Sunday, and the remaining roads will close at 6. Ray Avenue between Mason Street and the entrance to Festival Park Plaza will be closed to traffic starting Saturday morning, and the roads will reopen as the marathon course clears. If you understand all that, you are better than I am. The marathon is on Sunday. Item number two, the Cumberland Community Foundation Scholarships. Awards range from $500 to $10,000, and criteria for each scholarship vary. Criteria and applications are available online at cumberlandcf.org. The deadline to apply is March 30th. And for more information, you can call Susan Barnes at 483-4449. Those are very good scholarships for primarily for kids graduating from high school going to college. So encourage your grandchildren or those that you know to check into that. Great scholarships. Item number three, blood drive. The Cape Fear Valley Blood Donor Center is having a March Madness blood drive Saturday from 11:30 to 5:30 at Buffalo Wild Wings on Skybow Road. All blood types are needed. Okay, today's birthdays and today in history. Today is Friday, March 23rd, and this is the 82nd day of 2018. There are 283 days left in the year. Today's highlight. On March 23rd of 1775, Patrick Henry delivered an address to the Virginia Provincial Convention in which he is said to have declared, "Give me liberty or give me death." In 1806, explorers Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, having reached the Pacific coast, began their journey back east. In 1933, the German Reichstag adopted the Enabling Act, which effectively granted Adolf Hitler dictatorial powers. In 1942, the first Japanese Americans evacuated by the U.S. Army during World War II arrived at the internment camp in Manzanar, California. In 1956, Pakistan became an Islamic republic. In 1965, America's first two-person space mission took place at Gemini 3 blasted off with astronauts Gus Grissom and John Young aboard for a nearly 5-hour flight. In 1968, UCLA defeated North Carolina 78-55 to win college basketball's NCAA championship, and I believe that was Dean Smith's first team in the Final Four. or in the championship game. I think that's right. In 1973, before sentencing a group of Watergate break-in defendants, Chief U.S. District Judge John Sirica read aloud a letter he received from James McCord, which said there was political pressure to plead guilty and remain silent. That was the beginning of the breaking open of Watergate. Today's birthdays. Movie director Mark Rydell is 89. Singer-producer Rick Ocasek is 69. Singer Shaka Khan is 65. Actress Amanda Plummer is 61. Actress Catherine Keener is 59. Actress Hope Davis is 54. Actor Richard Grieco is 53. Country musician Kevin Griffin is 53. Actress Maren Hinkle is 52. Rock singer musician Damon Albarn is 50. Actress singer Melissa Errico is 48. Rock musician John Humphrey is 48. Actor Randall Park is 44. And gossip columnist Paris Hilton is 40.
This is today's live wire question. I have 3 upright pianos that I'd like to be rid of. How do I find persons interested? The answer is you could try placing classified ads in your local newspaper, on Craigslist, and on Facebook, which has for sale sections for Fayetteville and Sampson County. This question is from a person in Autryville. And you can place ads to try to sell or give the pianos away. Piano composer Alan Deaton of Raleigh has a sideline business of refurbishing old pianos and reselling them. He said if your pianos are in acceptable condition, he is willing to remove them for free. If the pianos are in poor condition, Deaton said you could hire him to take them and dispose of them. If some are good and some are bad, he said he'd discuss pricing with you. The price to remove an unsalvageable piano increases with the size and weight of the instrument, he said. Deaton asked that you text pictures of the pianos to his cell phone to help him decide whether they are candidates for refurbishment. His cell number is 910-366-7431. Another option is to donate your pianos to charity. The Beethoven Foundation and Pianos for Education organization accept piano donations to provide pianos to students and institutions for music education. Go to BeethovenFoundation.com or pianosforeducation.org to learn more about their programs and arrange to donate your pianos to one or the other. Pianos for Education can also be reached at 404-826-6172. The Piano Adoption website is a place for people to list their unwanted pianos to potential takers. Go to pianoadoption.com to list yours. And concerning the marathon schedule we just heard, Bill Kirby's column today says, on your mark, get set, the finish line awaits thousands. They're coming. Runners, and more runners. Hand cyclists too. We're expecting about 3,500 to 4,000. Kimberly Tompkins was saying Tuesday about the 5th annual All-American Marathon that is scheduled Sunday, with marathon runners leaving from Festival Park on excursions of 26.2 or 13.1 miles to the main post parade field on Fort Bragg. Right now we have 3,000 and we expect 1,000 more runners. They'll be representing, says Tompkins, the marathon director, all 50 states. It's that time of year, said Doug Hewitt, the Fayetteville city manager, and we're so excited to partner again with Fort Bragg in the marathon. The All-American Marathon and the Mike to Mike Half Marathon preceded by hand cyclists at 6:55 a.m. are scheduled for 7 a.m., with the runners heading up to Grove Street, then toward Green Street and along Hay Street to Haymount Hill, and on to Morganton Road toward the All-American Freeway toward the military base. The All-American 5K is scheduled for a 7:30 a.m. start at the main post parade field. A number of designated areas, marathons officials say, will allow fans to cheer on the runners, but no area will be more poignant than near the Santa Fe Drive exit on the freeway, when members of the Fort Bragg chapter of the Wear Blue Run to Remember will be holding names and photographs of fallen military heroes and heroines. It's going to be emotional, Tompkins says. Stephen Marthay, a 29-year-old Army captain,
Ingrid's husband. Ingrid's husband.
And company commander with HAC 1st Battalion Infantry, the Parachute Infantry Division, took top honors in the 2017 marathon with a time of 2 hours, 40 minutes, and 1 second. Jack Bruches, head cross-country coach at Methodist, was runner-up at 2 hours and 51 minutes and 38 seconds. Sarah Day, 38, a major with the North Carolina National Guard, led the women with a time of 3 hours, 13 minutes, and 14 seconds, and finished 8th overall. Peter Kuski, 26, a soldier, won the half marathon in 1 hour and 9 minutes and 45 seconds. It was his second consecutive mike-to-mike victory. Mary Trasmo, 29, a military wife from Salisbury, took the women's event with a time of 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 53 seconds. Danny Schlitch won the All-American 5K in a time of 16 minutes and 33 seconds. And Cecilia Dean won the women's division at 18 minutes and 55 seconds. Bruce Newman, age 70, won the hand cycle competition with a time of 1 hour, 36 minutes, and 24 seconds. Tompkins says 51% of this year's field are men, and about 70% of the competitors are from Fort Bragg. There are 14 wheelchair entries as of midweek. Those still wishing to participate can register online at allamericanmarathon.com and from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday at the Crown Complex. This is not just a military event, Colonel Kevin Reed, the post garrison commander, says as Fort Bragg celebrates its 100th anniversary. It is a community event as we look to the future. Hopefully on Sunday we can experience some good weather. The weather forecast for Sunday is a high of 52 degrees with a 40% chance of showers. More than 7,000 to 10,000 fans are anticipated, according to Ray Lacey, who is Fort Bragg's Director of Family Morale and Welfare Recreation. They're coming by the thousands. They'll be giving it all they've got on this All-American Day. Tomorrow's column will be entitled "To See a Runner Stop."
Let's take a look at some articles from the business page. This article's entitled "Trump Signs Trade Order." It's the big news. Some of the big news from yesterday. Primed for economic combat, President Donald Trump set in motion tariffs on as much as $60 billion in Chinese imports to the U.S. on Thursday, and accused the Chinese of high-tech thievery, picking a fight that could push the global heavyweights into a trade war. China threatened retaliation, and Wall Street cringed, recording one of the biggest drops of Trump's presidency. but he declared the U.S. would emerge much stronger and much richer. It was the boldest example to date of Trump's America First agenda, the culmination of his long-standing view that weak U.S. trade policies and enforcement have hollowed out the nation's workforce and ballooned the federal deficit. 2 weeks ago, with fanfare, he announced major penalty tariffs on steel and aluminum imports that he said threatened the national security. However, even as Trump was talking tough at the White House, his administration moved to soften the sting of the metal tariffs, telling Congress on Thursday that the European Union, Australia, South Korea, and other nations would join Canada and Mexico in gaining an initial exemption, and that raised questions about whether his actions will match his rhetoric. China isn't shrugging him off. If somebody tries to impose a trade war on us, we will certainly fight back and retaliate, the Chinese ambassador to the U.S. said. If people want to play tough, we will play tough with them and see who will last longer. At home, investors on Wall Street showed their rising concern about retaliation and business-stifling cost increases for companies and consumers. The Dow Jones Industrials plunged 724 points. Trump himself, joined by supportive business executives, complained bitterly about the nation's trade deficit and accused China of stealing America's prized technology. Any way you look at it, it is the largest deficit of any country in the history of our world. It's out of control, Trump said of the U.S.-China imbalance. The U.S. reported a $375 billion deficit with China last year, which Trump has blamed for the loss of American jobs and the closing of plants. The president said the tariffs could cover about $60 billion in trade with China, but senior White House officials said the U.S. trade representative had identified 1,300 product lines worth about $50 billion as potential targets. That list will include aerospace, information and communication technology, and machinery, according to USTR fact sheet. But further details were scant. The order signed by Trump directed the trade representative to publish a list of proposed tariffs for public comment within 15 days. Trump also asked Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin to come up with a list of restrictions on Chinese investment and said the administration was preparing a case before the World Trade Organization. Despite Trump's confident words, business groups and Republican lawmakers are worried his tariffs could undercut actions they had welcomed in his first year. Please go ask her about the articles. Let's take a look at Tom Morganow's Social Security column that's published each Friday in the business section of the paper. Tom writes, "I just got an email that absolutely floored me. Honestly, it even brought a lump to my throat. It has to do with something that happened about 25 years ago. While I was working for the Social Security Administration in San Diego, California. Frankly, it was a rather routine occurrence for me back then and still is today," let me explain. And then we will get to this guy's email. "For almost 50 years now, I've been making speeches and other presentations to large and small groups around the country about Social Security. For most of those years, I was doing so as an official representative of the administration. But I retired from Social Security in 2005, and for the past 13 years, I've been freelancing as a private Social Security consultant. I guess that at more than half the presentations I make, someone in the audience gets up on their soapbox and starts ranting and raving about Social Security. I always let them go on for a minute or two. I actually don't mind the intrusion because it lets me make some points. I tell them to recall stories they may have heard about these so-called good old days before Social Security came along. But what they may not have heard is that 50% of all senior citizens were living below the poverty level, and many of them were living with their grown children because they couldn't afford a place of their own. Today, after about 8 decades of Social Security payments, the senior citizens' poverty level is below 10%. And not only are most older folks living in their own homes, many of them have second homes or vacation cottages, or they are traveling a lot. In other words, most senior citizens are rather content and happy. And Social Security is a big reason for that. And I point that out, and I point out that the program has been paying benefits to millions of Americans on time every month for about 80 years now. I always ask the interrupter, how long must Social Security be around before you finally acknowledge that it is here to stay? So now let's get to this email I got. This is just a slightly shortened version of what showed up in my inbox earlier this week. I was at a speech you gave to a Rotary Club meeting in San Diego about 25 years ago. I'm not sure if you remember the incident, but I got up and challenged you. I don't recall everything I said, but I know I used the term social insecurity and went on about how I thought the program was a sham, foisted on the American people by FDR and his cronies. I was about 60 years old at the time, and I said I was pretty sure the program would be broke before I had a chance to collect benefits. And I further said I was absolutely convinced Social Security would no longer be around for my kids. Well, fast forward almost a quarter century later, I'm now living in Palm Springs, and I saw your column in one of our local papers. I couldn't believe this was the same Social Security guy I saw at the San Diego Rotary Club all those years earlier. Anyway, I wanted you to know that my wife and I have been getting our Social Security checks for about 20 years, and our oldest son and wife just signed up and started getting their Social Security checks. So I wanted you to know that I was wrong and you were right, and I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for interrupting your speech all those many years ago, and if you ever are in the Palm Springs area, let me take you out to lunch. Well, as I said, this email choked me up a bit. What a wonderful gesture. This has never happened to me in my almost half-century of dealing with Social Security issues. I must admit that I have often wondered about all those folks who over the years have ranted and raved about the supposed insecurity of Social Security. I know that most of them were probably now collecting monthly benefits, and I wondered if any of them had changed their minds. Well, now I know that at least one of them has. And by the way, I'll let this guy know that if I ever do make it to Palm Springs, lunch would be on me as a thank you for his noble gesture. A few other brief items from the business page. Long-term U.S. mortgage rates are ticking up slightly this week, the 10th increase in the past 11 weeks. Mortgage buyer Freddie Mac said Thursday that the average rate on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage rose to 4.45% from 4.44% last week. Rates are relatively low by historical standards, but they shot up from an average that remained below 4% last year. The benchmark rate averaged 4.23% a year ago. The average rate on a 15-year fixed-rate loan rose to 3.91, up from 3.90 the week before.
The next article is local by Nancy McCleary about a fire that rekindles and destroys remainder of house. A fire that heavily damaged a home in the Ponderosa neighborhood Wednesday rekindled Thursday morning and destroyed the remains, the Fayetteville Fire Department said. The initial fire at 489 Warm Springs Drive was reported at 4:30 p.m. and damaged about 50% of the single-story home off Santa Fe Drive. Firefighters were called back about 3:45 a.m. by a neighbor who saw fire coming from the damaged structure, a news release said. The structure was fully involved in flames when firefighters arrived. The blaze was brought under control at 4:30 a.m. The first fire started in the kitchen, according to Deputy Chief Hugh Sifford. The cause of the second fire has not been determined, he said. 6 occupants who were displaced are now being assisted by the Red Cross. The home is owned by George C. Walker and his wife Keisha, according to Cumberland County tax records. The next article is by Paul Wolverton, gun control protests coming to Fayetteville. This weekend's International March for Our Lives protest for gun control laws to prevent school shootings will include an event in Fayetteville. Organizers plan a rally from noon to 2 p.m. Saturday at College Lakes Recreation Center, 4945 Rose Hill Road. Speeches and other activities are planned. The public is invited. Participants will show their solidarity with the survivors of the shooting in February at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, said college student Lanice Dale of Fayettville. 17 students were killed in Parkland. The protesters want reform, Dale said. Dale, 18, is a member of the recently formed Association of Students for Social Justice Club at Fayetteville Technical Community College. The club is one of the organizations arranging the rally in Fayetteville. The college is not a sponsor of the event. Rallies and marches are planned throughout the United States and in other countries, says the March for Our Lives website. A petition on that website calls for a ban on assault rifles, a ban on large capacity ammunition magazines, and closure of loopholes in the laws governing background checks for gun sales. Social justice members at Fayetteville Tech have differing opinions on how to prevent future mass shootings, Dale said. I want there to be some type of control, not a ban, because that's not the whole point of the issue, Dale said. It's just we want to control what types of guns people are allowed to have. Because nobody should be able to have a semi-automatic and be able to use a bump stock to make it a fully automatic weapon, especially if they're not in the military. If they don't have the training for it, they shouldn't own that type of gun, Dale said. A bump stock is a device that can be attached to a semi-automatic rifle to make it shoot more like a fully automatic machine gun. The mass shooter in Las Vegas, who killed 58 people at a concert in October, used bump stocks on his rifles to increase his rate of fire as he shot into the crowd. American gun laws restrict access to machine guns, but bump stocks have been legal under federal law. There has been discussion of making them illegal, and several states have banned them since the Las Vegas shooting. The Florida shooter used a semi-automatic rifle without a bump stock, according to news accounts of the shooting. Dale said schools need trained law enforcement officers on campus to provide security. She cited the shooting at a high school in Maryland on Tuesday as an example. A student there shot and injured two classmates, then was fatally shot by a deputy stationed there. The Florida high school had a deputy on campus, but he stayed outside the building while the shooting was going on. And out of Raleigh, from the Associated Press, health officials report 8 more flu deaths. 8 people died from the flu last week, helping to push North Carolina's record-setting death toll for 2017-18 to 328, health officials said Thursday. In addition to the 8 deaths reported for the week ending March 17th, officials say 15 people who died in previous weeks were determined to have the flu. Of the total, 16 victims were aged 65 and older. The death toll for last week marked the first time since the week ending December 23rd that there have been fewer than 10 deaths. By comparison, the most deaths for any week during the flu season have been 50 for the week ending on February 17th. The flu season usually runs from October to March 31st, but has been known to run into April. One sign that the flu season is subsiding is that visitor restrictions for children 12 and under ended March 16th at Triad hospitals after being put in place January 12th. Infection prevention teams at the hospitals met and determined that they were all seeing similar downward trends in flu cases.
We're at the bottom of our first half hour. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service. We are a United Way partner agency broadcasting here from the campus of Fayetteville State University using the UNC Chapel Hill system. We are a nonprofit agency. We need your support. Please consider sending those contributions to the radio reading service at P.O. Box 35029, 28303. In conjunction with that, please remember that the golf tournament is coming up on Saturday, April 7th. Hope you can encourage folks to participate or to donate to that cause. The golf tournament is going to be at Gates 4 Country Club starting at 11 a.m. Whole sponsorships begin at $100. You can call the office for questions about this or comments on anything at 672-1600. Okay, let's continue reading now in the paper. This article comes, a local article says, city retains lawyer specializing in white-collar defense. During a closed session meeting Monday night, City Attorney Karen McDonald gave the City Council legal advice on procedural steps she recommended that a member of City Council will need to take in order to recuse themselves from voting on an issue in the future. The city has also retained Mark Calloway, a former U.S. prosecutor who specializes in white-collar criminal defense. McDonald said Wednesday Calloway sat in during the closed session and introduced himself to the City Council, according to several people who attended the meeting. City Manager Doug Hewitt said he could not discuss what occurred during the 30-minute closed session or why they had the city retain Calloway services. When asked yes or no whether he knew why the city had retained Calloway, Hewitt paused and said, "Anything else?" Mayor Mitch Colvin told the City Council right before the closed session that the city staff had previously briefed him and Mayor Pro Tem Ted Moon about the need for the closed session under the state's attorney-client privilege exemption. North Carolina's open meetings law allows a public body to meet behind closed doors to receive legal advice from a lawyer representing the public body or to discuss a pending legal matter involving the public body. The law does not allow public bodies to discuss general policy matters in a closed session, nor can it exclude the public merely because an attorney employed or retained by the public body is a participant. Colvin said he was opposed to the closed session because the City Council will have to vote on what was discussed eventually in public. The key issues that we are being asked to make a decision on will have to be discussed openly, and I was just saying it needed to be done that night, but I was in the minority on the vote, Colvin said. He said that the lawyer discussed a specific City Council member in his meeting with her prior to the dinner meeting. The attorney made some recommendations to a council member about recusal, Colvin said. Colvin, Hewitt, McDonald, and other members of the City Council declined to go on the record in disclosing what was discussed during the closed session. Several people who attended the meeting said McDonald advised the City Council of procedures regarding council member recusals from votes and talked about a specific council member who she advised the council to allow to recuse themselves from voting on a specific issue. The people in the meeting requested anonymity due to the nature of the closed session, but declined to say which member of the City Council was discussed. The sources said that the future vote pertained to development occurring in the 100 block of Hay Street. This development includes the construction of a $37 million baseball stadium by the city, a parking deck, and private development by Prince Charles Holdings. City Councilman Bill Crisp motioned to go into closed session. My concern, Mr. Mayor, is the attorney seems to be adamant that we need a closed session. City Councilman Tisha Waddell seconded his motion. I have a sworn obligation to uphold the laws we are governed by, including those related to closed sessions, and I take that very seriously, Waddell said by email Thursday when asked about what occurred during the closed session. Should you have any additional questions as they pertain to what was discussed during the recent closed session, please refrain from directing those questions to me and instead refer to the email sent by our attorney, Karen McDonald. The City Council voted 8-2 to go into closed session. Colvin and City Councilman Tyrone Williams voted in opposition. I still stand by my vote that we could have discussed it openly, Colvin said Thursday. Colvin declined to comment on what went on during the closed session. He said he was not able to due to the vote. Williams, via text, told the Fayettville Observer that he would call at 4 p.m. Thursday but did not respond to phone calls, text, or emails at that time or after. The rest of the City Council declined to speak about the closed session. Moon and City Council members DJ Here and Kathy Jensen referred all questions to McDonald. City Council members Jim Art, Johnny Dawkins, and Larry Wright said Thursday that they could not discuss what occurred during the closed session on meeting due to the attorney-client privilege exception and the privileged information that was discussed during the meeting. City Councilman Bill Crisp could not be reached on Thursday due to travel. On Wednesday, he also declined to discuss what occurred during the closed session. I can't talk about it because I don't want to violate the confidentiality or the confidence of any person that we discussed. Hewitt said he could not discuss what occurred during the closed session or why a member of the council might need to recuse themselves. There are times and situations where we cannot be as responsive to questions like the ones you are asking because we also have competing demands. Hewitt said McDonald is in charge of hiring outside legal counsel and referred all questions regarding Callaway to her. McDonald's email said she would be out of the office on Thursday and Friday and would be unable to respond to email during the business day. Hewitt confirmed that Callaway is not representing the city in any pending lawsuits. Callaway is a Charlotte lawyer with the international law firm of Alston and Bird. On the law firm's website, his page says, from serving as a U.S. attorney to directing the Executive Office for United States Attorneys, Mark has clients across the country that trust his seasoned guidance in the ever-shifting field of white-collar criminal defense. Interesting. Okay, this article is entitled Medic Returns Home. It's a military-related article written by Amanda Dolasinski. For decades, Philip Gonzalez moved from one war-torn country to the next, traveling through recluse villages with only his medical gear ready to treat the needy, emaciated, parasite-infected, deformed people. It was a job not many people wanted, but Gonzalez never faltered as he sought out the sick. You have to go to them, said Gonzalez, now 70 and speaking from his home in Fayetteville. Gonzalez, who began his medical training at Fort Bragg in the 70s, has traveled the world treating people in places no one else would go. He retired as a first lieutenant in '96 after serving 24 years in Special Forces and as a reservist. His career became full circle when he returned to Fort Bragg in 2012 to pull from his real-world experience to teach the next generation of special operation medics. I'm teaching what I learned to students who want to carry the banner for the old soldier, he said, smiling. I'm teaching them what I know they'll encounter. That means being ready to draw blood and do transfusions. They have to be able to administer anesthesia and perform open-heart surgery in the middle of the jungle. Good grief. Continuing on, a native of California, Gonzalez moved around a lot with his Army family. He remembers a childhood in Japan where rural towns were recovering after World War II. Upon graduation from high school, he worked odd jobs as a barber, usher, garbage man, and bouncer. He enrolled in a university in Texas, but quickly realized that wasn't where he belonged. As the draft was ramping up for Vietnam, Gonzalez thought his best shot to avoid being drafted was to enlist in the Army. He trained as a radio operator and was assigned to the 5th Special Forces Group 403rd Operations Detachment, a precursor to the Defense Intelligence Agency. Gonzalez served in Vietnam from '69 to '71 on a quick reaction force that traveled through the highlands to the Mekong Delta. He remembers one firefight where the enemy had his team pinned down with mortars. They tried throwing smoke to show incoming helicopters where to fire. That was one of the true points in time when I thought not to be religious but find a way out, he said. Just let me see the sunshine one more day. Miraculously, he said, the team made it. They carried their wounded and cleaned blood from their weapons and marched on. That's where Gonzalez felt his true calling, to care for the sick and the wounded. The reason is what I saw the medics doing to keep our wounded alive, he said. The skills they had were beyond belief. I thought that was the most noble profession, the nobility in that you can get that father or son back to his family. Vietnam gave me a focus on the profession I wanted. When he was about 23, Gonzalez transitioned out of active duty to the Army Reserve and went to Panama, where he worked for a year with an archaeological expedition group that searched for a lost Indian tribe. Gonzalez returned to the United States to receive training in Army medicine and decided to return to Panama. Now a trained medic, he ran a clinic on the San Blas Islands where he pulled teeth, delivered babies, treated shark bites, and taught basic medicine to the indigenous people. It's the jungles that I've been in and sought out the greatest needs, he said. That's where I wanted to put my skills to use. His next stop were El Salvador, Nicaragua, Burma, Cambodia, and Sarajevo, where he cared for people during wars and civil unrest. Gonzalez landed in Colombia, where he would stay for 20 years and considers that home. While I was in Colombia, I found something that was sad, and that is a lot of deformed children, he said. Gonzalez called an old battle buddy who had become a surgeon to help him open a clinic and perform corrective surgeries. The men obtained funding from American companies in the country, ensuring they could operate over the next 8 years. It was so bad for some of these people they'd wear scarves and not come down from the mountain. It was very rewarding because with cleft lip all the pieces are there. We do these surgeries in about an hour and their whole life is changed. In other medical work, Gonzalez routinely put teams on horseback or in boats to reach far-flung villages. Soon, intelligence agencies caught wind that an American was so ingrained in Colombia and wanted his help. As a former military radio operator, it was easy for Gonzalez to find the frequencies on radios used by the cartels, the only form of communication at the time, and listen to them plan drug deliveries around the country. In one of his photographs from that time, anti-narcotics officers are seen walking through a room they had just hid. It looked like a snow blanketed the floor, but it was 2 tons of cocaine. While living in Colombia, Gonzalez rebuilt a boat that he named the Amazon Queen. That's where he lived with his new wife, Lilia, and their young daughter, Sid. The family lived on the boat and navigated the Amazon River, stopping at regional health clinics to treat people for 8 years. People would see the boat coming in and they'd rush down, he said. His beloved boat sank, so the family rooted in Colombia while Gonzalez went to work as a contractor in Iraq. For 4 years he trained and treated Ugandan security forces who affectionately called him their witch doctor. In 2012, Gonzalez was sent to Afghanistan where he trained and taught basic medicine to Afghans. He also was part of a team that traveled roads to deliver mail to soldiers in forward operating bases. It was dangerous, he said. You could hear pings of rounds hitting the trucks. In one day, he said, he counted 36 trucks that had been struck and exploded. At a friend's urging, Gonzalez made his way back to the United States to teach at the Joint Special Operations Medical Training Center, where he had received his own training about 40 years ago. His career now may seem a little tamer. There haven't been any shark bite attempts or AK-47s pointed at him, but it's exactly where he wants to be. I feel like I'm in the right place at the right time to teach the best of the best, he said.
Next are several local items. The first one is by Nancy LeCleary. Fatal shooting involved special ops soldiers. The 2 men involved in a fatal shooting off Crystal Springs Road on Wednesday were identified Thursday as Fort Bragg soldiers. Both were soldiers serving with the U.S. Army Operations Special Command, said Lieutenant Colonel Robert Brockhold, a spokesman for the command. Mark Daniel Leshikar, 33, was pronounced dead shortly after Cumberland County Sheriff's Office deputies and homicide investigators arrived at a home on the 1300 block of Manhiga Court in the Brookshire neighborhood. Lawmen were dispatched to the residence at 5:37 p.m. Leshikar and the other soldier, who has not been identified, were involved in an altercation that resulted in the shooting, Bachholt said. The soldier who shot Leshikar was still on the scene when deputies and investigators arrived, said Lieutenant Sean Swain, Sheriff's Office spokesman. The occupants in the house who were home when the shooting happened were questioned by Sheriff's Office investigators. Leshikar's body was taken to the office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Raleigh for an autopsy. and also by Nancy McCleary, 2 people displaced by house fire. An accidental fire Thursday morning heavily damaged a home in the Bonnie Doon neighborhood and displaced 2 occupants, the Fayetteville Fire Department said. The fire at 5105 Whilland Street, behind the former Carolina Square Shopping Center on the 5100 block of Bragg Boulevard, was reported at 7:27 a.m. The 2 occupants were safely out of the house, but a dog died in the fire, the release said. Heavy smoke was coming from the 1-story home when firefighters arrived. The fire started near the water heater, Deputy Chief Hugh Sifford said. Damage was estimated at $30,000. The Red Cross is assisting the displaced occupants. Their identities were not given in the release. The home is owned by Nina Wade, according to Cumberland County tax records. And this is an article about a crib giveaway. Junior enlisted soldiers who are expecting a baby before October 31st are eligible to receive a free crib through a giveaway on Fort Bragg next week. The USO of North Carolina Sandhills is hosting the giveaway by crib manufacturer Delta Children on Wednesday at Hercules Gym, 736 Armstead Street. There will be 500 cribs and mattresses given to families. To be eligible, the soldier must be a junior rank up to sergeant, first lieutenant, or chief warrant officer 2. Families must register online prior to the event. Soldiers must bring valid military identification to the event. To register, go to eventbrite.com/e/Delta Children's Crib Giveaway Tickets. The telephone number is 378-773. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. That number is part of the email. After tickets dash, then there's a number 378-773-70234. And the last local brief, also by Nancy McCleary, school placed on lockdown. Sherwood Park Elementary School was put on lockdown Thursday afternoon after a man walking on Wingate Road reported that someone was shooting at him. It happened about 1:30 p.m. An unidentified man flagged down a school resource officer and said someone had fired shots at him, said Lieutenant Sean Swain, spokesman for the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. The school is located on 2115 Hope Mills Road, which is where Wingate Road intersects with Hope Mills Road. Because of the proximity of the reported incident, Swain said, school administrators opted to put the school on a code red lockdown. Later Thursday, the sheriff's office had not confirmed if shots were fired in the area.
Okay, some items out of Washington. He came, he saw, he got fired on Twitter. And now Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has said farewell with a parting plea Thursday to America's diplomats not to let anyone violate their integrity. Tillerson did not mention his erstwhile boss, President Donald Trump, as he spoke to several hundred State Department workers who gathered at headquarters in Foggy Bottom to watch him depart. Nor did he directly address the icy manner in which he was terminated last week after one of the shortest stints by a Secretary of State in recent history. This can be a very mean-spirited town, Tillerson said, but you don't have to choose to participate in that. When he arrived in the nation's capital last year, Tillerson made no secret of his unwillingness to play the Washington-style games that turn governing into blood sport, one-upmanship, aggressive public posturing, surreptitious leaking, and even sabotage. Weeks into his tenure, the Texas oil man famously declared he wasn't big on press access, explaining, "I personally don't need it." Others in Trump's administration didn't see it the same way, and Tillerson quickly found himself on the receiving end of negative reports, leaks from his rivals, and mounting speculation about his future, until being abruptly fired last week, 4 hours after returning from Africa. Often at odds with the White House, he also lost the confidence and support of many at the State Department's 75,000 workers over his moves to cut the budget, leave key leadership positions vacant, and downplay human rights and democracy promotion as diplomatic priorities. Still, there was sustained applause for several minutes as he departed the marbled lobby of the Harry S. Truman Building, the same lobby where the former ExxonMobil CEO introduced himself as the new guy in his hallmark Texas drawl 14 months ago. A few former staffers whose tenures were even shorter than Tillerson's also returned to see him off. Then Tillerson set off for his home in Texas, a more familiar climate, Deputy Secretary John Sullivan joked, which I know suits him well. If the Senate agrees, he will soon be replaced by current CIA Director Mike Pompeo, who frequently bumped heads with Tillerson over Iran and other issues. Also coming out of Washington, a budget agreement has been reached. The House easily approved a bipartisan $1.3 trillion spending bill Thursday that pours huge sums into Pentagon programs and domestic initiatives ranging from building roads to combating the nation's opioid abuse crisis, but left Congress in stalemate over shielding young dreamer immigrants from deportation and curbing surging health insurance premiums. The vote was 256 to 167, a one-sided tally that underscored the popularity of a budget deal among party leaders and provided enough money to address many of both sides' priorities. Further highlighting how eager lawmakers were to claim victories, the House approved the 2,000-page package, which stood around a foot tall on some legislators' desks less than 17 hours after negotiators released it publicly. The next step was Senate passage, which was assured. That it was possible some Republican senators critical of the bill's spending could delay its approval until after midnight Friday night. If that occurred, that would prompt the year's third federal shutdown, an event that was sure to be brief, but would still embarrass the GOP that controls the White House and Congress. The White House said President Donald Trump supported the legislation, even though he tweeted Wednesday that he had to waste money on Democratic giveaways on domestic programs to win increases for the military. Congressional Republicans focused on the bill's defense increases. Vote yes for our military, vote yes for the safety and security of this country, said House Speaker Paul Ryan. Democrats touted spending boost on biomedical research, child care, and infrastructure projects. And Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi attributed part of the House's hasty work on the measure to GOP fears of being stuck in Washington on Saturday, when huge throngs of students and others are expected to demonstrate in support of gun curbs. They just don't want to be around when the young people come to town. Some Republicans were opposing the measure because of what they considered excessive spending. Some Democrats were opposed because it lacked language renewing the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. Trump has ended DACA, which temporarily let some young immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children stay in the U.S. The bill would deprive Trump of some of his border wall money and take only incremental steps to address gun violence. It would also substantially increase the federal deficit. If you want to read that line one more time, it would also substantially increase the federal deficit. We have not paid for any of this. Also missing was a renewal of federal subsidies to insurers aimed at curbing the relentless growth of premiums. Trump ended some of these payments as part of the effort to scuttle President Barack Obama's health care law, a bipartisan effort to restore them and add additional help for carriers founded over several disagreements, including how tight abortion restrictions on using the money should be. On guns, leaders agreed to tuck in bipartisan provisions to bolster school safety funds and improve compliance with the criminal background check system for firearm purchases. The bill states that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention can do research on gun violence, though not advocacy, an idea Democrats pushed. Democrats temporarily shut down the government earlier this year as they fought for protecting the Dreamers. The issue only rose to a discussion item when Trump made a late-hour push for a deal in exchange for $25 billion in border wall funds. They are spending money like drunken sailors. Okay.
I have to. Do you want me to read it? Thank you.
Okay, another item from the Associated Press. From the old steel communities around Pittsburgh to the lakefront communities of Chicagoland, Republicans are facing an increasingly clear reality. They've got trouble in the suburbs. In the last 2 weeks, Democrats scored an upset in southwest Pennsylvania and dominated the voting in the Republican suburbs outside Chicago. President Donald Trump, who never won over suburbia, continued to get poor marks from the educated upper-income Americans who often call it home. After Democratic victories in state legislative contests in Virginia and special elections across the country, even a stunning Senate election in Republican-dominated Alabama, Republicans have plenty of reason to worry that commuter country may be their undoing in the fight for control of the House in November's midterm elections. Across the board, every single indicator points to one thing: a Republican bloodbath, said Republican strategist Terry Sullivan. Democrats need to pick up 23 seats to take the majority, a task made particularly challenging by the way House districts currently are drawn to favor Republicans. Still, any House majority is built on the suburban success. Republicans control most rural and small-town districts where Trump finds his strongest political support. Democrats dominate districts anchored in big cities where Trump opposition is fiercest. The party in charge will be the one that wins the battle in between. The electorate often is the sort of ideological and demographic mix that defines a two-party battleground. In 2014, the Republicans successfully defended their House majority. GOP nominees won 52% of the suburban vote, according to exit polls. Recent polling suggests that support is slipping. An NBC News Wall Street Journal poll conducted earlier this month found just 43% of suburban residents prefer a Republican-run Congress to a Democratic majority. Democrats' target list starts with nearly 24 Republican-held seats where Hillary Clinton bested Trump in 2016. The list is heavy on seats in California and the Northeast, suburbs outside Philadelphia and New York, corners of the Democratic-leaning states where Trump didn't win over wealthier, moderate Republicans. Now the GOP fears that those weaknesses are spreading further from big city centers and also into suburban districts around mid-sized and smaller metropolitan areas. Democrat Connor Land is the nightmare. He won a Pittsburgh area district where Trump won by nearly 20 percentage points. The Allegheny County portion of the district, the most populated portion just outside of Pittsburgh, had gone to Trump by just 4 points. Land won there by 17%. The race demonstrated that suburban Republicans, even those who voted for Trump, will vote for a Democrat in the right circumstances. Lamb was a strong candidate who stayed focused on economic issues and didn't focus on talking down the president. That formula, combined with anti-Trump fuel enthusiasm on the left, could mean trouble for the GOP. President Trump isn't on the ballot for us, but he is on the ballot for them, said Georgia Republican Chip Blake, a veteran of the congressional campaigns across the South. The president has good numbers with his base, but not with independents and swing voters, and they live in the suburbs. In Illinois primary elections on Tuesday, the 5 counties that wrap around Chicago's Cook County saw Democrats cast ballots 5 times as many ballots as they did 4 years ago, ahead of the midterm romp for the GOP. Republicans, meanwhile, saw their turnout drop by almost a quarter of what it was in 2014. The National Republican Money Machine is focusing heavily on defending the suburbs. The Congressional Leadership Fund and Political Action Committee, aligned with Speaker Paul Ryan, has opened field offices in 30 Republican-held districts. They plan to eventually to spend more than $100 million in as many as 3 dozen areas. The group's first wave of offices overlapped heavily with the Clinton GOP districts, but they've effectively acknowledged the creep of the suburban with their expansion into places like Representative Andy Barr's Kentucky district that includes Lexington, population 318,000 and its surrounding suburbs. We're not going to get the benefit of the doubt in this environment, says the group's director, Corey Bliss. Okay, we're at the top of the hour, and so it's time to turn to the obituaries, but first, a reminder that this is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency, broadcasting here from Fayetteville State University using the signal of the UNC Chapel Hill system. We are a nonprofit agency. Need your support. When you can do that, please continue sending those donations to the Radio Reading Service at P.O. Box 35029, and that's zip code 28303. Please also encourage people to support the 8th Annual Golf Tournament coming up on Saturday, April 7th at Gates 4. That's at 11 o'clock. Whole sponsorship start at $100. And of course, they would like to have teams to play in the tournament. You can call the office for more information at 672-1600. So now, as usual, at the top of the 11 o'clock hour, we turn to the obituaries for today. So let's work through those. Let's go first to the late death notices. This is a difficult name here. Pathminadevi Markandu, 76, of Fayetteville Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service. Bibi Usmanali, I hope I'm saying that right, 78, of Fayetteville Herring Funeral Home. Lizzie Ann Locklear, 36, of Shannon Bowles St. Paul's Funeral Home. Dolores McQueen, 48, of Maxton S&L Funeral Home. Todd Barnes, 28, of Southern Pines Simon Funeral Home. Wilbert Lee Faison, 95, of Clinton Worley Funeral Home. And Mary Calder, 82, of Laurel Hill Richard Bowles Funeral Home. And the obituaries. Shirley Fine Zabo, 93, of Fayetteville, died March 22nd at Carolina Inn. Funeral service will be held at Beth Israel Synagogue, 2200 Morgan Road, at 11:30 a.m. Sunday, with burial following at the Beth Israel Cemetery, and that is Rogers and Breese. Robert Earl Larkins, 55, of Fayetteville, died Monday, March 12th. His memorial is Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Weissman Mortuary Chapel. William L. Faircloth, 67, of Hope Mills, died Wednesday. His funeral is Monday at 12:30 at Cross Point Church. Visitation is Journey Memorial Funeral Home, Sunday, 6 to 8. Burial is at Sand Hill State Veterans Park. Patty Guyber, 79, of Fayetteville, died Saturday, March 17th. The graveside is Monday at 10 a.m. at the Sand Hill State Veterans Cemetery on Fort Bragg. Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service. Deborah Smith Bedsole, 62, passed away March 21st. Whispering Pines Rehabilitation Center and Nursing Facility. A memorial service will be held at 6 p.m. Friday, March 23rd, that's today, at Peters Creek Baptist Church in Roseboro, with David Bays and Harley Whaley officiating. The family will receive friends from 5 until 5:50. Butler Funeral Home. Henry Bernard Clayton's Jr., 91, of Broadway, died Thursday. The funeral is Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Antioch Baptist Church in Mamers. The visitation is the church sanctuary Saturday from 10 to 11. The burial is in the church cemetery, and that's Oakland People's Funeral Home. Minister James Wesley Williams, 69, of Lillington, formerly of Irwin, died Monday, March 19th. The funeral is Sunday at noon at Jordan Temple Bible Church of God. The viewing is at Dafford Funeral Home in Dunn, Saturday from 1 to 5. The burial is in the Cumberland Union Free Will Baptist Church Cemetery. Pernell Kelly, 73, of Rayford, died Saturday, March 17th. The funeral is Saturday at 11 a.m. Mount Pisgah Resource Center in Rayford. Viewing is at Weissman Mortuary Friday from 2 to 7. The burial is at Mount Pisgah Baptist Church Cemetery in Rayford, Weissman Mortuary. James Henry Jabbo Galbraith, 69, of Maxton, died Saturday, March 17th. The funeral was Saturday at 2 p.m. at Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church in Maxton. The viewing is at S&L Funeral Home in Maxton Friday at from 1 to 6. The burial is in the McLeod Cemetery in Maxton, S&L Funeral Home. James R. Price, 87, of Greensboro, formerly of Dunn, died Wednesday, March 21st. The funeral is Sunday at 1, Cape Fear Conference A headquarters in Irwin. The viewing is at Dafford's Funeral Home in Dunn from 1 to 5. The burial is at Rest Haven Cemetery in Dunn, and that's Dafford Funeral Home. Willie Bud Jones, 84, of Lumberton, died Wednesday, March 21st. The funeral is Sunday at 3 p.m. at the Smyrna Baptist Church in Lumberton. The visitation is at the church prior to the service, Sunday from 1 to 3. The burial is at the Robinson Memorial Park in Lumberton. Online condolences may be made by visiting Floyd Mortuary. Lula Mae Strickland Smiling, 88, of Maxton, died Wednesday, March 21st. The funeral is Sunday, 3 p.m. Mount Hebron Holiness Church. The visitation is at the church Saturday from 7 to 9. The burial is in the Strickland Family Cemetery. Richard Bowles Funeral Service. Francis Lucille Nelson McKnight, 69, of Yonkers, New York, died Wednesday, March 14th. The funeral is Saturday at 1 p.m. at Weissman Mortuary Chapel. The viewing is at the funeral home Saturday from noon to 1. The burial is in Cross Creek Cemetery, number 4. Barbara Holland, 65, of Whiteville, died Tuesday, March 20th. The funeral is Saturday at 3:30 at the Brunswick Walker Mall Association building in Whiteville. The viewing is at S&L Funeral Home in Fair Bluff, Friday, 1 to 6. The burial is at Bellevue Cemetery in Chadron, S&L Funeral Home. Richard Dickey Glisson Quick, 71, of Lumberton, died Tuesday, March 20th. The funeral is Saturday at 3 p.m. at Floyd Memorial Chapel. The visitation is at the funeral home Saturday from 2 to 3. Bernard Lamont Bryant, 29, of Bun Level, died Sunday, March 18th. The funeral is Saturday at noon at Bethel AME Zion Church in Spring Lake. The viewing is at the church Saturday from 11 to noon. Burial is in Riverview Cemetery, Weissman Mortuary. Mary Elizabeth Tadlock, 84, of Roland, died Wednesday, March 21st. The funeral is Sunday at 3. Dogwood Baptist Church. The visitation is at Bowles Funeral Home of Roland, Saturday from 7 to 9. The burial is at Hickory Hill Baptist Church and Bowles Funeral Home. Maddie Louise Everett, 77, of Laurinburg, died Friday, March 16th. The funeral is Saturday at 1. Bright Hopewell Baptist Church, Laurinburg. The viewing is at McFadder Funeral Home Friday from 1 to 6. Burial in the Hillside Memorial Park. Donna Sue Jackson Ausley, 68, of Dunn, died Tuesday, March 20th. The memorial is Sunday at 3 at Skinner and Smith Funeral Home. The visitation is at Skinner and Smith Funeral Home Sunday from 2 to 3. Othella Cherry Clegg of Lillington, died Monday, March 19th. The funeral is Saturday at 3 p.m. at the Paradise AME Zion Church of Broadway. The burial is at the church cemetery, Walker Memorial Funeral Home and Cremation. Matt Arthur Manning, 94, of Parkton, died Saturday, March 17th. The funeral is Saturday at 1 p.m. Providence AME Zion Church. The visitation is at the church Saturday from noon to 1. The burial is at Providence Church Cemetery. That's Hills Funeral Home. Jimmy Lee Armstrong, 62, of Rayford, died Tuesday, March 20th. The funeral is Sunday at 2 p.m. at Solid Rock Holiness Church in Rayford. The burial is at the church cemetery. That's Purcell's Funeral Home, Southern Pines.
The next article is out of Raleigh by Jonathan Drew with the Associated Press. A mother helped her 1-year-old daughter smoke marijuana in videos of the child puffing on a cigarillo that garnered millions of views online, according to an arrest warrant. Authorities were alerted Wednesday by concerned social media users after 2 videos of the girl smoking sparked outrage. One of the videos showed the hand of an adult off screen holding the cigarillo to the girl's lips. The child made a cooing sound, appears to inhale, and lets out a puff of smoke before turning toward the adult with an expressionless look. The newly released warrant said the mother inflicted harm by having the child inhale marijuana smoke from a blunt more than once over a 2-month period starting last December. The girl has been placed with County Child Protective Services. The mother, 20-year-old Brianna Ashanti Lofton, was held on charges of child abuse, marijuana possession, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. During a brief court hearing Thursday, a Wake County judge set Lofton's bond at $100,000 and ordered her to have no contact with her daughter. A prosecutor had asked for a higher bond, noting Lofton recently faced separate charges, including marijuana possession and simple assault. Public Defender Caroline Elliott noted those were misdemeanors. This is the first kind this charge that she has ever looked at, Elliott told the judge, referring to the felony child abuse accusation. Elliott noted her client lives with her mother and grandmother and is working on her high school equivalency diploma. She does have family support, she told the judge. Elliott declined further comment after the hearing. No one answered at an apartment listed at Lofton's address in the warrant, nor at another house previously listed for her in court papers. Police issued a thank you on Facebook on Wednesday to members of the public who alerted them to the video. While police said multiple Facebook users alerted them to the video, an account holder whose post was seen by millions said he shared the video hoping the woman would be held responsible, and he included a message urging her arrest. The user, who identified himself as Rashid Martin of Rochester, New York, said he doesn't know the mother and first found out about the video when a friend shared it online. And the next article is from the Weekender section of the paper, Dining Out, the Best Eats in and around Fayetteville, and today's emphasis is on the food truck that serves up sweet, savory empanadas. The first question is, and this is about the 507 Empanadas food truck. The first question is, tell us about your place. Maritza Teagle and her husband Eduardo opened 507 Empanada food truck in October. The 507 in our name is the country code of Panama, which is where I'm from, Teague said. The empanada is a staple of every Latin country. When starting the business, there was fear and joy, she said. While recovering from breast cancer, Teagle said she was inspired to develop new recipes and a new dough that can be baked or fried. The inspiration I received for developing new empanada flavors has been a gift from God. Creating and developing new flavors has kept me uplifted and moving forward. Teagle's empanadas are frequently sold at Bright Light Brewing Company, Dirtbag Ales Brewery, and LeClaire's General Store. On Friday, it will be set up inside LeClaire's on Fort Bragg Road from 6 to 8 p.m., she said. The